Welcome to the Not Old Better Show Smithsonian Associates Series. I'm your host, Paul Vogelsang, and this is episode number 194. As part of our Smithsonian Associates Art of Living series, our guest today on the Not Old Better Show is Lidia Bastianich. Lidia Bastianich is author of the new book, My American Dream. Lidia Bastianich shares the vivid story of her close-knit family, her professional ascent, and the dedication and passion for food that led to multiple restaurants, mini best-selling cookbook, and 20 years on public television as host of her own cooking show.
Hi, Paul. Mine is a story, an American dream story, and it is the story of a young immigrant girl escaping communism, fleeing back into Italy, finding refuge as ethnic Italians back in Italy, but then moving on because Italy after the war was hard, spending 2 years in a refugee camp, and then finally at 12 years old being accepted and invited to America, the ultimate dream, and coming here as a 12-year-old, excited about having a stable home, a free country, a country where you have freedom of religion, of speaking the language that you want, and a country of opportunities. And how I grew up to be an American, to love America, and to take the different opportunities that America was offering and really turn them into a very dream life, if you will, my American dream.
That, of course, is our guest today, Lidia Bastianich, who will be at the Smithsonian Associates Program presenting her new book, My American Dream, April 6th, 2018. Please join me in welcoming to the Not Old Better Show via Skype, Lidia Bastianich. Well, Lidia Bastianich, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to talk to you. I'm excited to do this. I've read your book, American Dream. I'm excited to hear what you have to say about that, and I'm really curious to have you tell us a little bit about your upcoming Smithsonian Associates presentation.
Oh, Paul, I'm very excited. On April 4th, there'll be a conversation with Lidia, and Joe Yonana will be my interviewer, and there'll be a conversation between the two of us, and it will take us across my life, if you will. It's about a 60-minute conversation, and wherever Joe will take me from my childhood, the escape into Italy with the family, the living 2 years in a refugee camp online for food as a young child, and the different unsettling kind of situations. You know, when you're a young child and you move continuously, you don't have a continuous group of friends. You're missing your family. So there's a lot of emotional, if you will, sentiments there that we certainly, if you ask me, we'll be discussing. And then ultimately, the coming to America, the getting the visas, and that was in 1956. We ultimately came in 58. Dwight Eisenhower was the president, and what it meant to be a 12-year-old not speaking the language, into a new country, something that we dreamed, that we planned in all of our kind of trek, if you will. And ultimately we were here, this beautiful country full of opportunities, the freedom, I was just mesmerized by it all, but I just took it all in, and how I slowly became an American, how, I began to love America and truly feel an American now. And ultimately, this is the story of my American dream, how from a young girl, I evolved into a chef, into a businesswoman, into a cookbook writer, now a memoir writer, into having cooking show, being the host of a cooking show on PBS, and so on, and now getting involved with 5 grandchildren, and I know that you are a second generation, but I have 2 children that were born here, and my grandchildren, which are the second generation, and how they are certainly they are American, but still there's the Italian element that we keep at home. So, how do you balance these two, if you will, cultures? Only in America you can do it so freely.
Well, it's a fascinating story. You are very well known as a chef and a restaurateur, a business person, very successful, television, and all of the various things that you do. In my research of you, I found a really interesting statement that you make. You say, food tells us who we are. That's a really interesting statement. Tell us more about that.
It is. Food is our profile, in a sense, because if you sit me at the table and you put food in front of me from mostly any country around the world, I will probably be able to say, okay, I think this is from the Orient, I think this is from the Middle East, I think this is from Africa. So food really expresses a culture, the climate of that culture, the topography usually of that culture, because certain things grow under certain conditions, and ultimately, the flavors and the smells of who you are. I mean, there's nothing that brings you closer or together more than a table full of traditional food around the holidays for a family. There you really belong. You really feel, this is who I am. It's in my genes.
That's a really nice way to put it. You really belong. Family and cooking are so intertwined in our lives, and yours very much so. You mentioned I'm a second-generation immigrant family, and I will never forget my grandmother making what she called persimmon cookies with me in the kitchen and my 2 sisters, and we just learned a lot. Your Italian grandmother taught you how to cook. What are your favorite memories of the food and the time that you two spent together?
In a way, I was blessed, even though it was the area where I was born is Istria, and Istria is a little peninsula on the northeast part of Italy, right by Venice and further northeast. And Istria was Italian until after World War II, when Italy lost, and it became Yugoslavia. But Yugoslavia was communist, so the communists put up the borders, the wired fences, and the way of life in Istria changed. Communism, communal gardens, but I was blessed to have my grandparents who lived in a small town, and my grandmother, though food was scarce, she produced all the food to feed the family. So I was in an idyllic setting of food production. We had chickens, we had goats, we had pigs, we had ducks, and then, of course, my grandfather made wine. We had olive trees, just enough for the family. We made olive oil, and, of course, the seasons, the spring, the peas, the favas, then the summer, the figs, the fruits, and so on down, So I grew up being Grandma's little helper. And I would really get involved in milking the goats, making the ricotta. When the oil was made, I would dunk the bread in that still warm olive oil. And my connections to my memories, and that's why in the book also I am so connected, and so my memories are so detailed because food does that to you. It remained it's like a film for me, thinking back of that period. But Paul, also that was because at 10 years old, when we escaped back into Italy, as a youngster, I was not told, and I was not aware that I would not return. So I hadn't said goodbye to Grandma, to my friends. And hence, as an immigrant, in the camp and so on, I kept to those memories. I kept reliving those food and childhood memory with my grandmother. And I think that those are that's the basis, the reference library for my cooking passion and my cooking style.
We are with Lidia Bastianich. Lidia Bastianich is going to be at the Smithsonian Associates Program coming up here on the 4th of April. And Lidia Bastianich, I've read your new book. I'm about 2/3 of the way done, and I've really enjoyed it. The title, of course, is My American Dream. It isn't so much a cookbook, but it's an autobiography. It's a memoir, as you say. So tell us a little bit about achieving the American dream and maintaining your strong roots and family history at the same time.
Well, when we came here again, I was 12. I couldn't become a part of the American teenagers scene fast enough. I know that we didn't speak the language, but we, as a child, I wanted to get involved. I wanted to learn the language fast. I know when I turned 18, I got my citizenship right away. I wanted to be American because here, finally, this was kind of our where we're going to set our roots. And I was young enough, and I just couldn't get enough of it and fast enough. And then the opportunities came, my enthusiasm, my want to become American, to grow, and all along the opportunities that were offered to me, the people that kind of helped me along, and I took advantage of it because in a very positive way. If I saw an opportunity to go and cook with somebody, I would. And as I got on into business, the opportunity of opening a restaurant, then the opportunity of writing a cookbook, that came rather when I opened for Lidia in 1981. And the first restaurant we opened was in 71, my husband and I wasn't the chef there because I was so young. Then I worked as a sous chef with the chef from 71 to 81. But in 81, we opened for Lidia, and I became the chef. And, I cooked regional Italian food, not the Italian-American it's Italian-American is a great cuisine. But I wanted to cook the food that I remembered, that we cooked at home. And that's what brought a lot of people, a lot of press to the restaurant. And among one of the first was Jay Jacobs, who wrote for Gourmet. Mm-hmm. And he wrote, a great article, but then we became friends. And he said to me, Lidia, you should write a cookbook. And I said, well, I'm not a writer. And so he said, let's do it together. And you see, and I said, okay. So that was, I took that opportunity with somebody that guided me into writing a cookbook. And that was my first cookbook, and that's 11 books ago. As far as television, again, at Lidia, who walks in one day, Barbara, Julia Child, and James Beard. And so they had heard about, I guess, this woman cooking, and she was enthused with my risotto. She asked me to teach it, how to make it. She came to my house. We ultimately became friends, and she invited me to be on her show. She had the Master Chef series, and we did 2 episodes, and I just loved it. I was easy, I love to talk about my passion. She made me feel at ease, and before you know it, the producer says, Lidia, you're pretty good. How about a show of your own? So I took that. So it's the opportunities that came along that I took that made me grow into who I am. It is not a long-term plan that I had, let me tell you, but it's just that here there were so many opportunities. I chose judiciously things that I felt that I could, but it just multiplied, and the opportunities still keep on coming.
It's a powerful story, and my impression of you, Lidia Bastianich, from your book and your TV shows and everything is that you don't take anything for granted, that family, food are right up there in terms of importance. But what else along your journey has given you such joy?
I don't take anything for granted because through my life, I was taught many different lessons, and was without sometimes the freedom. Like, we couldn't go to church when we were under Yugoslavia. We couldn't speak Italian. There wasn't enough food, and then slowly things open up. Then 2 years in the camp, I was in line with my little plate for my daily ration of food and so on. And this. I took all of these experiences, and it strengthened me. It strengthened my character. It built kind of an understanding, towards other people, because I was there. Sort of, a humble kind of approach to life, and yet, there's no animosity for me in what happened. I was positive about it. I was given the opportunity, and ultimately, everything was getting better and better. And it's kind of my character. But you know what, Paul? Now I'm talking about all these years, that many years later, and 46 years as a chef. I feel that I need to also share what I had with other people that are so it kind of is 360 degrees, and there's a great reward for me in this process too, of kind of giving back.
Well, Lidia Bastianich, thank you so much for joining us today. Your story is powerful. It's heartwarming. It's also you also serve as just a wonderful example to all of us. Your presentation coming up at Smithsonian Associates is going to be excellent. But thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Paul.
My thanks to our guest today, Lidia Bastianich, who will be at the Smithsonian Associates program presenting her new book, My American Dream, at the National Museum of the American Indian. The program is sold out, so please call 202-633-3030 to get on the mailing list. My thanks as well to the Smithsonian team for all they do to support our interviews. As usual, we'll post links to everything, and also as usual, my thanks to you, the listeners, for joining me today. Your time is valuable, and I'm grateful you're spending some of it with me. I'm always interested in feedback, and you can leave that at iTunes, Google Play, or send me email at info@notold-better.com. Stay tuned for our next show, another great one, as we talk about better, the Not Old Better Show. Thanks, everybody, and remember to check out genealogybank.com/NOBS for great genealogy newspaper articles, history, and data, and to support the show. That's genealogybank.com/NOBS. Thank you.